years. um, so yeah, this would happen. He was also had this Edgar Casey ability to find my retainer that I had to have in my mouth, and I would lose it constantly because I
Yeah.
hated the feel of it in my mouth, and it was clear plastic, and so you could just like see through it.
Yeah.
If you put it down, I was constantly losing it, and then but I had to find it because I was like I didn't want to disappoint my dad and had caused an expense
Yeah.
like that. So I'd like go, oh God, what am I gonna do? I call Austin. It's like desperation. Go to the phone. I was like, Austin, do you know where where my retainer might be? He would start laughing, and then it would get to the point where he rang me. He would call me when my retainer was lost and tell me where it was.
Because he knew you lost it.
Yeah, because he was told, my guides told me you lost the retainer again. So yeah, you're right. I was about to call you saying like, one time I called him, it was very Edgar Casey. Like he told me he'd never been in my house and I never described my house or the furnishings or the arrangement of the rooms.
Mm-hmm.
So he said it's under the blue couch in the TV room under the left front leg in the by the Newsweek. And I went and I searched. I thought I did a good job. I say, Austin, for the first time, you're inaccurate. It's not there. I got to find this thing. It's like, no, you looked very poorly. It's in the newspaper by the Newsweek. You have to open up the pages and there it was. And it was just like every time he was 100% fine. And the funny thing is I was a teenager and I never thought to ask him anything more
Beyond that.
significant than my retainer. It's like it never crossed my mind. It was always like a desperation thing. I didn't want to instrumentalize him. That was part of it. And I was willing to instrumentalize him because it was like a desperate thing.
Yeah.
You know. So and then there was a time I was at his house. I see the time. I'll keep going. I was at his house and we used to talk at his kitchen table. It's like satsang, one-to-one satsang. We could talk about anything, and there's just presence. And my mind couldn't have a thought in that place. And I had this sudden notion that I had to go into his backyard. It's like, Austin, I got to go to your backyard. I just went. I'll be back there, really drawn to the backyard. I walked up. There's this lovely walking path that was one of those things that's a former railroad track where it's kind of raised up. And so I walked up that, and it was a lovely leafy walkway now without the railroad tracks. Dappled sunlight. And I'm walking on this for, must have been just a few seconds. And all of a sudden I feel like I almost pooped my pants. There was poop going down the chute. Right. And somehow, and it was weird. Like that had never happened in my life before or since. Right. And I squeezed and clenched somehow just in the nick of time. It's like, this is not, you can't have this happen. Yeah. And then I realized that my body was in a state of like fight or flight. It's like, what the fuck is going on with my body? Why? Because there was no stressor at all. Then I look in front of me because I was just kind of looking around, looking at the trees. And then there's this thing about 50 feet away, maybe 60. It's hard to say. And it started to dawn on me, that's what that there's a connection between that thing that I'm seeing and what was going on here. And it's a big animal. And it's big. And it's like, that ain't no dog. And I'm like, is that a wolf? Like a big black wolf? And like, it's not, no. And so my mind's going through a Rolodex of what this thing could be. And I was like, it's moving like a cat with that whole front shoulder walk thing that just like, it's a big cat. It's like, it's a panther, it's a jaguar. And I'm like, there's no panthers in Wisconsin. And plus it had this weirdness around it. It had like in the film Predator, like on a hot day when you see the sort of the heat lines.
Yeah.
There were heat lines all around it, like 2 feet out around this thing. And I'm saying, okay, it's a weird jaguar. And my mind is then deciding like, can I fight this thing? Am I going to need to fight this thing or do I need to run? Then before coming to the conclusion, I find myself running. So I turned around and then I'm thinking like, oh no, the Discovery Channel told me never run from big cats. It stimulates their chase instinct. It's like, and then I was sure I was going to have a searing pain of a claw or teeth going into my neck any time now. Of course, it didn't happen. I get to almost to Austin's door. I'm so glad that I've practiced as a teen boy, running at doors, opening doors, and jumping in a seamless fashion as possible. Did that, pushed the door behind me with my feet like I'm in Jurassic Park or
Wow.
something, getting away from a raptor, locked the door. I'm on the
Jump.
ground panting. Already on the ground is Austin. He'd fallen off his chair. He's laughing. Uh, and, and I'm saying, and I'm looking around still, making sure the door is going to hold because I think a hulking beast is after me.
Mm-hmm.
And he's laughing. He said, like, "Oh, don't worry. You only met you met the Jaguar. It's an etheric Jaguar, and it likes you." I was like, "What?" Like, oh God. And he said, like, it's actually quite not, it had a name and I've forgotten the name. He said, yeah, that Jaguar was assigned to me as the protector of this property so I could do my work.
Wow.
And he said that that the Jaguar, first of all, kind of called you out there and then introduced itself to you, showed you, is it's saying that you're in the pride or you're in the family,
Oh.
and its protection is extended to you because I'm basically like the sorcerer's apprentice here,
Right.
more or
Yeah.
less. Uh, and and that right there, because it's very, I mean, I was skeptical as well of all these experiences, but that at least told me that either he was reading my mind,
Mm.
again, like he'd had many times before. He had implanted the entire scenario into my mind like some wizard, or there was a really fucking etheric Jaguar. And I went with door number 3 because that seemed,
Right.
with all the other experiences, the most likely out of the group.
Yeah.
That was Austin. That was life at Austin's.
That's amazing.
Heads going open, Hebrew coming down into my skull, even though he's in this he's sort of in this quasi Native American tradition, or he's in a Native American tradition, but as in the body of a former town asshole.
Right.
You know, he gave me the book, The Keys of Enoch.
Mm.
He was very careful with his books. He kept them so well, and I wouldn't even like borrow some because, like, Austin, I'm gonna have an accident with that one, so I'm gonna pass. I can take care of this one and not get a scratch on it. And he said, "Okay, good that you know yourself." It's like yes. I picked up The Keys of Enoch, that his copy. I've never felt this from that, and it was like my hands were had pleasant electrical shocks going through them, and everything was open. So I was spoiled. I think
Yeah.
I was definitely spoiled by some of these mentors.